Okay, so I'm pretty sure all of you know that we're not perfect human beings. It's kind of a given. We tend to make mistakes that could ruin our credibility or anything really, and it's best if we acknowledge these mistakes. I will admit, I could have done a bit better on the last video talking about my thoughts on Friday Night Funkin'. It was more of a lack of research sort of mistake, if I'm honest. Anyways, getting into the actual point, week 7 of Friday Night Funkin' has released, and so I was planning on making this video for when the week release so I could say more things about the game. It's kind of obvious that I needed to make this since my original thoughts on this game are kind of outdated now, since a lot of what I've said in my last video has changed now that this update is here. Not really much for me to say, so in this video I will be covering week 7 of Friday Night Funkin', any new things that have come in the update, some corrections and clarifications, and some more. Let's get started. Alright, so the first thing in this video I want to make is some corrections from the previous video that some of you pointed out. This is just a way to acknowledge that I screwed up in some bits of the video and not everything is how you picture it. The first thing I want to correct is me saying the themes are getting slightly random. 5. I'm only starting to notice how random the themes for these weeks are getting. I think this specific part of the video caught some people's eyes for the need to correct this slight statement I made, but I'll just address it quickly. Cynical DIC in the YouTube comments said that week 6 is Pixel because it was meant to celebrate Newgrounds Pixel Day, which was January 23rd, 2021, but I really shouldn't put any excuses to this. At first I was confused a little on why he mentioned this. I originally thought this was just a blanket statement not really needed or was relevant, which is why I said that I didn't say it was bad for it to be Pixel. Then, after I thought about it more, and then realized he was probably talking about this section of the video, so I asked. However, I did not get a response, so I'm only left to speculate. Speculate or not, I will admit that it was poor for me to say in this video and just assume it wasn't pixelated for a reason, so I apologize for that. The next thing I want to point out and correct is regarding Pico Week. So Bam pointed out in the comment section that Pico's background is the Newgrounds office because Pico's Week is basically a reference to Newgrounds and that he used to be a big mascot for Newgrounds. I'm not exactly sure on what point of the video he's referencing here. He could be talking about the last clip of where I said the themes are getting slightly random, or also could be talking about me questioning why week 3 was Newgrounds and not week 2. Though then again, why would the week theme be that and not week 2 since that week's release came with the Newgrounds release? Not really sure on that, but in my opinion that just feels a bit weird. This definitely gives a lot of clarification on why week 3 is about Newgrounds, though I still kind of question why it's not week 2 a bit. To be fair, it was released on November 1st, so Halloween was coming up, so I guess I can see that point standing. Again, this is just another mistake that I made in the video of doing proper research before going later on in production, so I apologize for that as well. Thank you for pointing out the error, Bam. The last thing I'll be correcting / addressing is Kumit's comment on my video. Now, I actually can't really see the whole comment because for some reason YouTube won't allow me to look at their comments besides in the notifications, which clearly won't show the full of it. The first thing he mentions is the part where I'm sure he's talking about me complaining about how long it takes to load in a week for the game, where he says most likely computer for lag. Now, I'm not going to really go forth on addressing this point made in my video because that's more of a thing I want to clarify than straight up address now. However, I do want to correct myself on something I said about this. So in this section I was kind of implying all the weeks take forever to load, and I still stand by that statement. Yes, besides one week, week 6. The only real reason week 6 loads faster than the other weeks I assume is because the sprites are a lot smaller than the normal sprites. If you don't know already, the sprites in week 6 are a lot smaller than the normal ones in the weeks. If you're wondering how the sprites are a lot larger in game than they are in the files, well, basically in the code for this game, in the playstate.hx file, there's a static float variable called the pixel zoom with a value of 6 that multiplies the size of the sprites in week 6 with the width and the float's value, again, that being 6. This is obviously to make it so the sprites in the game aren't tiny while playing. Yes, I actually looked at some of the code for this game. I actually found out about this originally because of Moldy's Twitch stream where he talks about it. You should go and give him a follow on there, look in the description.
The pixel zoom, it's a variable and it's used to make the you know how the sprots, you know how small the sprots in week 6 are? Yeah, that the pixel zoom is the value that makes that resizes the sprots to make them bigger. It's a variable called the pixel zoom.
For some reason, I originally thought he meant dub pixel zoom and not dub pixel zoom, and what can I honestly expect from the name since the variable names in the code are actually pretty unnatural. Anyways, I'm getting a bit off topic, so I apologize for assuming week 6 takes forever to load. It doesn't actually, and that was my mistake that I'll own up to. Next thing he says is week 2 is after 4, but not in order yet. And I'll address the week 7 stuff later, but that doesn't really concern what I'm doing right now, though I will say that that is not true. Next part he says, Mommy Mirrors is named Mommy Must Murder Joke. And I was calling her Mommy Mirrors because, well, Google searching what her name is comes up as Mommy Mirrors. Don't really see the point in saying this, honestly. The next part, joke bro, he's not actually looking at Mommy Mirrors tips. Well, if it is a joke, then I obviously couldn't catch it since it definitely seemed like that was the case, so sorry for missing that. Also, I got with the Mommy Mirrors thing that isn't really necessary to point out, honestly. And finally, girlfriend and boyfriend, and it just cuts off right there. But yeah, I think that's all I really need to correct, so next part please. Alright, next up in this, I'm going to be making some clarifications I didn't really specify all too well in the last video. First I want to clarify is obviously the load week thing I said. Now, I already mentioned this in my pinned comment on my last video, but I'll just say this again to bring up my point once more. Just to note, my computer can handle the weeks completely fine, after a few notes that is, because it tends to have lag spikes after the first notes for some odd reason. The only issue is actually loading the week, which strangely takes a ton of time. I would look at the coding for how it loads, but I literally can't find it. Obviously, I know a bit more on the hex language, so I'll probably be able to find it easier, but saying my computer is the issue doesn't really take away what I said. The game was made in like 2 days. It's obviously going to have some unoptimized code, and so with that, I can't really be surprised if the code was unoptimized. It feels like a cheap argument, honestly. The amount of time it takes to load maps in Among Us mostly isn't because of your computers most of the time, it's because of bad coding, and they even said I think they were going to optimize this soon. Why do you think Yonder Simulator runs poorly on most devices? Poor coding. So why should I be surprised if the reason it takes forever to load in a week on some platforms is because of poor coding? I will give this the benefit of the doubt. It could potentially not be so much on the coding and more on the dimensions of the sprites, since the dimensions used in this game are pretty huge actually. Anyways, I think I'm done rambling on about this. The next thing I want to address in this is week 2, and me saying it's hard. If I'm going to be honest, I was talking about the week in general, but when I started playing Spookus more, I came to a more definitive conclusion that it's not as hard as it looks to be, and just to be more transparent, I'm talking about normal mode here. I've only tried Spookus hard mode once and immediately failed basically. I was more referencing the fact that Spookus is a lot easier than South for some reason. The difficulty in my opinion is kind of ridiculous considering it's only week 2. I can only be glad that they took away the lock in future updates of the game. I know people didn't really know about this specific part, but I want to bring it up to sort of correct myself and generalize my point of view and make it more understandable about what I meant. Again, apologies for not being so clear with this point. Now, the next thing I should really address here is week 7. Some people were quick to try some of the points I made in my video using what was coming in week 7. This doesn't really work at all. The intention of the video was more to critique the current state of the game. I already knew doing a bit more week 7 research that some of the issues I had mentioned in my previous video would be fixed in the week 7 update. However, I was only talking about the current version of the game and not at all taking week 7 into account when I made any form of criticism towards the game. The reason I did not is because, in my opinion, you should still mention a flaw in the game right now, even if that flaw is going to be fixed in another upcoming update. Also, another thing I should kind of clear up a bit, I did not actually know much about the lore or story of the game, besides the, you try and kiss your hot girlfriend but her dad is refusing you to, so you have to win for her by beating him in a dance competition. I had actually read the official lore timeline about the game through the wiki, so I understand a bit more about the game than how much I did when I first made the video. Anyways, moving on. Now, before I talk about any week 7 related content regarding the new update, I just want to quickly talk about any updated thoughts I have on the game since my video came out. The first thing I want to mention is week 6. Now, I said in the video that I like the instrumentals and vocals in Roses, and I still stand to that, though I will admit that the song is definitely a lot more catchier than I thought it was back then when I released my video. I'm willing to say that the song is my favorite in week 6 and one of my favorites in the game in general. The next thing to say is for week 4. I definitely think I underestimated the songs for week 4. I will be honest, listening to the songs more than just for a video is definitely better and releases out your actual thoughts on the song. I will say though, for some odd reason, Satan Panties feels a lot shorter than normal, and I'll say the same for High as well. Besides that though, not actually I really want to talk about that's changed. It's kind of stayed the same since then if I'm honest. Time to go and talk about week 7 now. So before I go and talk about week 7 itself, I think I should really address the actual update itself, since week 7 is not the only thing that was added into the game. But before I do that, let me go and talk about how the community wanted to play the update so badly that a big whole site crashed. Honestly, I find it to be a fair and also a stupid move that they put the week 7 update exclusively to Newgrounds. I asked Ninja Muffin on Twitter for why this is the case, and he said it was because it was Tankman, which I think is fair because he's the mascot of Newgrounds, so it's understandable in a way. Though I also think it's stupid because it's an anticipated update to a big indie game put only on one website, and because of that, the site is obviously gonna have some problems. If I were to make a huge game that revolved around a spooky house and then for the next update I added Robert A. Agur and put it exclusively to the Disney website, then that sounds stupid in my opinion. And also a recipe for disaster, which is exactly what happened here. Only around 10 minutes after the update releases, the site crashed. Seriously, I can't be the only one who thinks this is just baffling. After so, around 1 hour later, Newgrounds goes back online, but the submission is disabled. Gotta love also how people get surprised on Twitter, acting like they didn't expect Newgrounds to crash. Seriously, what the hell do you expect? A big update to an indie game released exclusively to a website and millions of people anticipate to play, and you don't think anything is gonna happen? Anyways, I think you understand my point enough, so I'm gonna get to the chase. Apparently people found some sites that included week 7 of Friday Night Funkin', so people linked them on Twitter and Discord, I assume, and so that's how people got a hold of it. And yes, there's obviously the people who were able to play the update before the site crashed, but we don't talk about them. The way I was able to access the update was through this site called Gamma Sexual, which weird name but I'll live with it, and I only ever heard of the site because Ben linked it as an alternative to play on Twitter. Thank you for that, man. Though I will say that I did play the game on Newgrounds once it wasn't disabled anymore, and it was a lot more comfortable to play in my opinion. I actually was just planning on playing week 7 and then just getting it over with already, but I couldn't complete the first song, which is why I needed to get some skill. So I stopped being such a lazy bum and played all the weeks I still needed to play. And boy was it actually kind of fun. Not only did I change some views about what I thought about certain weeks, but I also discovered some things in the week 7 update, which I'm going to get straight into that now. I think the first thing that would be right to talk about is the load a week issue. As you may already know by now, I've been talking about how loading a week would not only freeze some computers, but also make the game unplayable when finished after the first couple sections. This has been thankfully improved and not completely fixed, but improved enough to where I can actually play the game normally and not get bored waiting for a week to load while doing other hobbies while some computers suffer. The reason I'm saying it's not completely fixed is because, well, remember when I said the notes in game would lag spike after the week would be done loading? Just a note, my computer can handle the weeks completely fine, after a few notes that is, because it tends to have lag spikes after the first notes for some odd reason. Well, that's still a bit of a present issue to this update. Don't get me wrong, the general issue I was having is definitely fixed a lot, and I'm not trying to give the devs work any doubt, but when I was playing the game, I did happen to get that a couple times and have to annoyingly exit the tab and restart, and trust me, it's not as fun as it looks to be. I also do find it a bit annoying that this isn't the case most of the time, and sometimes the game just refuses. This could be just the engine, but I could be wrong on this also. Speaking about loading the week, I really like the new loading screen and loading bar for the game. It definitely gives the player an indicator for how much progress has been completed, and it's a very nice touch in my opinion. I think it would be cooler if it wasn't just a single background if there are more that would be shown from time to time, but that is just a nitpick on my part. Now the next thing I want to talk about is, I don't know if this is a change, but for some reason when I was playing the weeks, they felt slower than I imagined. I can't tell if they were retarded in any way, but I definitely got those vibes when I was playing the game. Not really much to say about what I'm confused about, but I guess I should just move on. Now the next thing I want to talk about is the new options menu. You may already know that I was complaining about how there wasn't an options menu in the current version of the game, and now there finally is one. Now I'm just going to talk about these options one by one here, starting with the login. Now with this, you can log in with your Newgrounds account, I'm pretty sure, and I'm also sure this is for data saving and such. Though I do find it strange that the game sort of doesn't work when you try and log out and re-log into the game. I'm not sure if this is just on my end, but this did in fact happen. The next option we have here are the controls. And yes, we have a control mapper. If I'm gonna be real, I actually wasn't expecting something like this to come to the game that soon, so props to them for adding that. Even though I'm probably not going to be using that since I use the arrow keys to play the game and they're fine enough for me. Now, the final thing in the options menu is the preferences option, and this is basically just a settings menu. I really like the animation for when you check off a setting. I think it looks really cool. However, I find it really weird that when you scroll up to the settings, the camera sort of loses its flow and snaps to where it was. Hopefully this gets fixed soon since it doesn't look pleasing to look at, honestly. I also do wish there were more options to help the game more performance-wise, since I actually tried the game with all these off and they didn't really help me at all. Anyways, that's all I have to say for the options menu. Some other minor things that have changed is the little icons on the health bar beat differently than the original version. Was sort of weirded out by this change, but I got used to it over time. Also, another change in this is that there's an animation for when you hit a perfect note, which, it's pretty alright I guess. I feel there should be some sort of way to turn it off since I feel it's been hurting me while playing. Could be just me. Another thing I actually complained about in my video is that you can actually select what difficulty you want when picking a song in free play mode. Thanks for that, I appreciate it. Finally, some changes I want to go over is the pause screen. The pause screen actually got a bit of an update, adding some new things such as the ability to change what difficulty you want. You'll restart the song with that difficulty when you select it, but I don't really mind that as that is to be expected, honestly. Another thing that was changed is a new feature called practice mode. Basically, to put it simple, practice mode is basically the normal game, but you can't die. And also, I'm pretty sure if your health goes down to 0, then it can go into the negatives because when I hit notes while it was down, it wouldn't recover. You can toggle this whenever you want. If I'm gonna be honest, I can't really see so much of a use for this. I feel it would be better if practice mode has some sort of ability for you to go to a part of a song so you can actually practice that part. It just seems like a you can't die toggle. However, you won't get any points or anything if practice mode is on, so make sure you keep that in mind. And another small detail I want to add is that they added some text at the top right for some info, which is a nice touch, especially with their animation. They also added a death count that shows how many times you've been blue balled. Anyways, with all of that out of the way, let me go and talk about week 7 itself, what you've probably been waiting for. Week 7, where the antagonist is Takeman, the mascot of Newgrounds, I'm pretty sure. This week was originally supposed to come out in March, but I'm not complaining, it's out, and here you can go and play it. There are 3 songs in week 7, called Ugh, Guns, and Stress. Ugh was actually released more than a month before the actual update came out. Not sure on why Kawai Sprite did that, but alright I guess. Anyways, before I talk about the song, I want to talk about the actual cutscenes before the songs itself. Yes, there's actual cutscenes for this week.
Well, what do we got here? We should just kill you, but what the hell, it's been a boring day. Let's see what you got.
I really like Takeman's personality for this cutscene, and he's actually shown speaking and showing his distaste for boyfriend. I also think the voice actor for him did a pretty good job giving him the tone he has. Now let's talk about Ugh. If I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really like Ugh that much when I first started listening to it. I kinda just felt like the voices used in the song were sort of annoying, and also not to mention that the sections constantly kept repeating and it felt really repetitive. Though I will say that I think the song gets better as it progresses in my opinion. Talking about the actual charts for the song, I definitely see doubt in this being a hard song. You just need a bit of skill if you want to beat the song, which I definitely needed when I couldn't play the song at all when I first did. One last thing I want to say about this is that I love how Takeman's sprite sometimes resembles the actual song. For example, when he does an Ugh expression when the song says Ugh. Really nice detail there. But yeah, I don't think the song is the best, even though a lot of people like it a lot, but I do think it's pretty nice.
Pretty tight bars for a little dude who's simping over an ugly, boring little teenager that wears her mom's clothes.
I don't know why, but I just love how Tankman uses internet slang to insult boyfriend and girlfriend at the same time. It's just fantastic in my opinion. Also, gotta love his strange laughing at the end. Alright, so I definitely have a lot to say about this song. First of all, I just gotta say that I find it kind of weird that the actual song starts off 10 seconds when the actual song plays. It's a waste of time and also reminds me of how Woodkid and Geometry Dash had this intro just to start the level. And even that is shorter than the length of this. Seriously, I know time passes fast or whatever, but I don't see this as necessary. I don't want to have to listen to an instrumental for 10 seconds before I play an actual song. Make it like 5 seconds or something, honestly. The next thing I'll say is this honestly is a pretty catchy song if I'm honest. I genuinely think the new voices used in this make the song a lot better in my opinion, and also the fact that both parties play the song at some parts of the song. In my opinion, the song starts to get really good at around the 40-second mark with a really good instrumental in the song. Though, I must question that weird shoot sound used sometimes in this part of the song. I'm not exactly complaining about them, but I am weirded out by them when hearing it a bit in the first place. And then in the halfway point, in my opinion, is where the song is at its peak. I can't really explain why, but I just find parts like this transition to no background instrumentals, only sounds thing in video game music to be really catchy, and this is just another example of it. It could be just the repeating notes used in this section, the right, up, down, left ones, and I really think it's also catchy with Boyfriend singing it as well. Anyways, that's all I have really to say about the song itself. Talking about the charting for the song, oh my gosh, is this song hard. Like, really hard. Seriously, on normal mode this song is a bit of a nightmare to beat. I tried so many times in practice mode, free play mode, and with like 40 something attempts, I couldn't beat it on the aforementioned Gamma Sexual website, but when the game got undisabled on Newgrounds and I played the song in story mode, I somehow did the song first try. Maybe second since the game could have lag spiked, but I'm pretty sure it was the first. The song is obviously possible, it's just really hard. It could be because the arrow keys on my computer are actually really tiny, but I don't really think that makes much of a difference. Looking at easy mode for this song, it genuinely feels like the normal mode for all the other weeks if I'm honest. Anyways, that's all I really have to say about this song. A really nice melody and song in general, but also really hard to beat.
God effing damn it. Well played, you little shit.
I genuinely find it funny that he says effing and not the actual cuss word and calls boyfriend that. I don't know why, but it just amuses me.
But this is war, and in war, people die.
Definitely love how he acts like a leader in the military and when people are in the war. Definitely fits his personality in this.
Man, get rid of fire. Sorry, no problem for you this year. Ha ha ha!
Alright, this genuinely has to be the best part of the cutscene, honestly. First of all, I find it great how Tankman just says, sorry, no problem for you this year, and just laughs, giving off that evil villain tone. Also, is it just me, or was Girlfriend about to go Super Saiyan on these dudes when they fired? Seriously, she looks like Sans in Undertale with that blue eye. Also, Pico coming in and wrecking everyone is definitely really epic, and the sound effects used just make it more epic.
Look who it is, your sexually ambiguous angry little friend. Don't you have a school to shoot up? There's one way to settle this. Let's rock, you little cunt. You little cunts.
I love how Takeman just calls Pico boyfriend's sexually ambiguous friend who still has a school to shoot up. I don't know why, but it just weirds me out when Girlfriend is just held with boyfriend. Anyways, time to talk about the actual song. If I'm gonna be honest, I don't think the song is as good as Gon's, but I definitely like how it gives that sort of final boss feel to it. For example, parts like this. I also want to say that I think it's fantastic how Take-Ban says, "Hey, pretty good," halfway through the song. It just really shows he's not just playing, but also watching their skill at the same time, which I personally think is a nice touch. Talking about the actual charts, when I played the song, it definitely wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Heck, I could even go and make the point that it's easier than UGG if I'm honest. And I'm saying that when I played it for the first time and I was playing very sloppy and didn't have much practice doing so. The times I mentioned in the beginning are probably my favorite parts in the song, and I think they're really fitting as well. Now before I end off my thoughts on week 7, I just want to say a couple things. First off, I love the background animations for Stress. I think they look really nice and actually picture war happening while they're dancing. Finally, I want to talk about the death screen. I just want to briefly say that it's original and great that Take-Ban gives you a taunt for when you die, regardless of what song it is.
No wonder your parents hate you.
I think there should be more of this in the future, not gonna lie. Also, I don't know why, but I feel like when boyfriend and girlfriend die, girlfriend's death sprite looks weird, honestly. Finally, I want to talk about the ending. When you beat week 7, you get a really nice video detailing the game's Kickstarter and what the game's become. In my opinion, this is an amazing way to advertise the Kickstarter for the game, and I think it's also cool that the donate button changes to a Kickstarter button after looking at the video. Finally, to wrap up this video, the week 7 update is a very good update in my opinion. It tries its best to fix the annoying loading a week issue. I don't know if I can say the same for the actual program and not just the website, but I feel it's immensely improved, which that's all I'm appreciative for. The songs for week 7 are also really good in my opinion, and the cutscenes are definitely fantastic in my opinion. I definitely say this is worth the wait, even though the entire community broke the Newgrounds site, which I find stupid again. Getting that out of the way, thanks for watching this video. Just want to thank Lost and Forgotten for notifying that week 7 came out originally. Go follow me on Twitter if you want to see updates on any new videos and see me tweet out and post out random stuff on there. Join my Discord server if you want to talk to me and also for fun. Anyways, that's all I've got to say. Hope to see you in the next video. See you later.
Think you got what it takes?